Did you know that 90% of the world's millionaires invest in real estate? Well, I'm Angel with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and I'm here to help you if you want to go for your piece of that pie.
So this is an example of a real estate sales team. These are all the different jobs that if you're a real estate agent, that you could have people do different things for you. So a lot of real estate agents just use virtual assistant here. Prospecting new leads. If you're worried about people talking on the phone, and most virtual assistants, we get most of ours of the Philippines, and the accent is pretty good. It's not perfect, but you can actually listen for accents before you pick who you want to use. It's not as hard of an accent as some other countries. So I know some people that like to use virtual assistants out of India. And people from India, it's usually cheaper to pay them. But if they have to talk on the phone a lot, the accent is a lot more, it's a lot different than say a Texas accent or most standard American accent.
Well, and they're based in Queen's English as opposed to American English. So there's a few little discrepancies. I know a lot of Caribbean students and they use Queen's English. And every now and then you're like, what word did you just use? Because it's just not a common usage in the United States.
Yeah. We talking about like fish and chips or something?
More like they'll say, like, when they're talking to my kids, they'll be like, come. Instead of like, hey, come here. It's just come. And then I'm trying, like, I can't think of one now. If you hadn't asked me, I could think of some really cool ones.
That's okay. I'm just playing with you.
I'll leave them in the back of my head and I'll try and think of the ones that I'm just like, that was an odd word to use, but it fits.
So going with a transaction coordinator here, we've actually had a few real estate agents that are doing so many deals a year. And even if it's, I say if you do more than 20, you could probably have a full-time virtual assistant. And we've had transaction coordinators. Basically, every state's a little different. But if you have a list of all the things that need to get done before a closing, you set that up, you give it to your virtual assistant, and that's what they continue to do. You know, that's what they do on every single transaction. It's all like set up through a Google document. You give them the list. There's a check offs. You have access to it. The virtual assistant has access to it. You guys can keep hounding her on it or him on it, or the virtual assistant is. So you need to go through your mind and just identify those things that you need to get done in your business, but you hate doing it. Those are the things that you need to delegate ASAP. I'm sure you can think of a few, Angel. Angel, name one.
Calling and making appointments. It's not so much that I hate doing it, but I'm really bad at it. Like, it is not my forte.
Well, so bad at it. The one thing I gotta be careful about is that I know some people like to use virtual assistants for cold calling. My philosophy is that if you're not good at cold calling, it's tough for you to train a virtual assistant to do the cold calling for you. So I would say get good at something first, and then it's easier to pass it off. You know, it's hard to blame a virtual assistant for not locking in leads and deals if you can't cold call yourself. So some tasks that a virtual assistant can do, obviously take customer service calls, online chat, bookkeeping, and the biggest one that we're always big on is social media support. I'll give you another example of another one of the employees that we have that works for one of our clients. And by the way, every client I'm talking about, I've spoken to them to make sure that they're okay with this. So we have a client, his name is Jimmy, and Jimmy has his own property management business. And he uses one of our virtual assistants full-time, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And she is his main secretary and administrative assistant. The phone calls are routed directly to her. Every single phone call that comes into the office, if they dial to speak to someone, it usually goes right to her. And she would deal with maintenance requests. She might deal with tenant complaints. And then she'll just send emails. There's a whole system they have in place that if the tenant has a complaint, she logs it in, sends an email. If it's a maintenance thing, It'll go to maintenance and it'll go to the direct property manager. It's pretty awesome. And like we said before, it's a lot less expensive than using a full-time secretary.
So would you still have an on-site person for property management for like leasing and showing apartments and things like that?
Yeah, you would. This is, like I said, this office, they have about 700 apartments. So they have 2 owners. They had a secretary. They have a full-time payroll accountant kind of person. They have a staff of about 4 or 5 maintenance people. But they decided that the person that was the secretary that they had on site was not performing a good job. So they decided to can her, and they hired the virtual assistant full time. You know, and they've been pretty happy so far because I deal with all the complaints, and there haven't been that many.
And the tenants are cool with that too because things are getting taken care of, right?
Yeah, you know, actually, some people said that they were getting taken care of better, but I mean, not every secretary is bad. That they had a specific issue,
Mm-hmm.
but it's nice. They're thinking about hiring a second virtual assistant just to have 2 secretaries on staff. Is your information safe? So we have the virtual assistant sign non-disclosure agreements. I'm jumping ahead. All right, so let's go. Right here, legally binding non-disclosure agreements. And basically, we could sue them in order to satisfy if they're doing something that they're not supposed to do. Can you hire part-time? You already asked that. Yes. How does a contract with us work? So we just do month to month. We make it nice and easy. We don't charge any big package to get started. It's the same price every single month for as long as you're with us. We've had some people for years. There's no setup fee, no hidden charges, nothing else. Why? We're partnering with you, okay? Our goal is to make sure that you're happy. If you're happy, we can continue to make money. So to give you an example, there was a typhoon that hit the Philippines, and we had one of our virtual assistants. She was perfectly fine, but the town had an issue, lost power, everything else. So she was offline for 2 months. But because we have a whole group of people, we were able to switch someone in. We gave the client a discount for the whole time, and they were quite happy to have their virtual assistant back when she could come back. It worked out.
That's really nice that you take care of your clients. You want to make sure that even in those kinds of situations that everybody's still covered and getting the assistance they need.
Well, some virtual assistant companies charge like big setup fees. I mean, hundreds to thousands of dollars. And it's like, we might charge a little more per hour, but we don't charge any of that craziness. Mm-hmm. You know, and the longer you're with us, then we can start actually making a little bit of money. What happens if I don't like the VA? We automatically pause billing. We've had 1 or 2 VAs that they haven't been a problem, but they got sick or they long-term stopped showing up. So we just refunded the client. If you need a VA change, we could give you a set of interviews. You could interview with 3 or 4 other staff members, and eventually you might hire somebody. Yeah, we don't charge anything for that kind of stuff.
Honestly, when I've talked to people that have VAs, they say that when you're in that interview process, usually 1 or 2 just really stand out. They tend to they match your personality, they respond well. And like I've had other friends too that are like, I consider them to be kind of abrasive. And so they'll be pretty straight up when they're in the interview process and be like, hey, I'm kind of abrasive sometimes. Will you be able to handle that? And because some VAs, culturally, it's different.
Yes, I agree.
And so they don't handle that the same way that that someone else might. So sometimes it's very important to make sure everyone's on the same page and don't take that as a personal attack, but as a personality, maybe even a personality flaw, as opposed to that personal attack.
So I'm going to give you another example of one of our real life clients. There's a woman, Joanne. She's a developer and she's a syndicator. and she hired one of our virtual assistants. She interviewed 4 people, and out of the 4, she liked all of them, but she had a hard time deciding between 2 of them. And eventually, she selected one. And a week later, she says to me, she says, Frank, she's just called me out of the blue. She says, Frank, you would not believe how much I needed a virtual assistant. I didn't even know. Think about how many things are in your inbox right now. Not in all the folders, just like stuck in that inbox.
I actually go through and just highlight them all and mark them as red so that I don't have to look at that huge number.
Oh, I didn't say whether or not they were new or not. I meant just sitting in that inbox.
Oh, I don't even know. I've lost count.
Yeah. So Joanne had over 10,000 emails sitting in her inbox. Most of them are red.
Somewhere around that.
Yeah. So in the first week, her virtual assistant went through her entire inbox and sorted it all into folders to make it perfect.
No way.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Maybe it took a week and a half, but still, it was quick because that's all she was doing full time. And then besides that, the next week or 2, the virtual assistant went through with a CR software and put in all the different people that she had through her email database and put it into a full CRM program for it. So now, like when you're looking at a new market, and I can't mention the market she was in, but let's say she was in St. Louis. She had a database of every broker she's speaking to in St. Louis, every property management company, everything else. It was pretty awesome. And because CRM is the way it works, you can have a note that just says St. Louis. You can type on the search St. Louis, and then every single person that's in your CRM for St. Louis come up.
Yeah, no, that is huge. Wow.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed myself. It was such a good idea, I decided to do it myself. All right,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So moving on, can your virtual assistant take inbound calls? Yeah, we don't charge you guys anything, and we have it set up that there's a caller ID system in which we link a phone number from your area code directly to the virtual assistant, and they can pick up phone calls for you, which is really cool. So what is the price of a standard secretary or administrative assistant in the United States? All right, so looking up on ZipRecruiter, the average salary right now is about $35,000, $36,000 a year, which is about $18.57 an hour. Now, just to pause, I'm not sure if that includes medical or anything else. Okay, if you use a virtual assistant through Real Agent Helper, these are the prices that we list on the website. Okay. By the way, I often give people a discount just for hearing me speak. Yeah, it's boring enough. So the full-time plan, according to our website, is $13.98 a month, which is equal to about $8.75 an hour. And then part-time, like I said, a little more money. It's about $10.62 an hour, and that's 20 hours a week. Usually how we do the part-time is we have you do 4 hours Monday through Friday or Tuesday through Saturday. And it might be like you pick the 91 or you pick the 2 to 6. A lot of times it's Eastern, but it doesn't have to be. Okay. We can work with your schedule with a lot of virtual assistants. You got to realize that they're doing it live, but in the Philippines, they're used to working at night. This is a night shift for them. Okay. It's about a 12-hour difference. So 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern is about 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
So they're really okay with working those night shifts like that.
I would say that they're very happy because they could work the day shift in the Philippines, but we usually pay them better. It's kind of like working for other jobs. It's a shift differential sometimes, but it's you think about it, whether you like it or not, the United States is one of the largest countries in the world, and the Philippines likes to cater to our customer support. So it's good money for them, and they stay with it. Wow. We rarely had anybody have a problem with that. Actually, you're going to laugh at this. I know we're recording, but it doesn't matter. We've actually had a harder time with virtual assistants that work their 9 to 5 which is overnight for us, than people that work overnight for them and daytime for us.
Wow.
I don't know the exact reason why, but it's so much easier for the people that are used to doing that shift. So I'm saying, let's say we needed someone that wanted to do a property management company 24/7. So they had someone working a first shift, a second shift, and a third shift. Our third shift is actually the hardest jobs that we have to fill. And usually we struggle finding good help.
Because they'd rather work that night. Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense because, like, if you've got kids or if you've got a lot of activity in your household, it would be easier to handle things at night when the activity is minimal.
Right. So why is the VA price per hour below the minimum wage? Depending on the state. So if you look, I'm going to scroll through this real quick. I mean, I don't know where people are from different states. Angel, you in Texas?
We are.
So I'm from the Northeast, and I know, let's see what Massachusetts is up to right now.
I'm going to sound so ignorant here. I thought the minimum wage was federal.
So there's a federal minimum wage, and that's why Texas is at the federal level of $7.25. But some states, there's a higher cost of living in different parts of the country. I don't know if you know this, but there's a big fight or argument right now to make it $15 an hour minimum wage throughout the country.
Yeah, I think I did hear that.
Yeah, so they're going state by state. So Rhode Island right now, I live in Rhode Island, is $10.50 an hour. Just because, I mean, so what's a 2-bedroom rent for in your area, Angel?
Well, we have 322s here in town, and they run for the house. It's like $1,100, maybe $1,200.
For a 3-bedroom?
3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage attached.
Oh, a whole house.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I don't. Yeah. We might have a house going for 13, but I don't think so. I think they're all under 1,200.
That's what I'm saying. So everywhere's different. The reason why Rhode Island has a higher minimum wage is because that same house in my area would rent for $2,000 a month, if not more.
Wow.
We just had a 3-bedroom apartment in a nice area near the hospitals and near the colleges that we just rented $1,900 for a 3-bedroom apartment, first floor.
I mean, I knew houses were more expensive. I guess it just didn't translate in my head to rent. But I've only ever lived in Texas. This is the only place I've ever lived.
What part, by the way?
I'm in North Texas. I grew up in Central Texas. So, like, my grandparents had, like, a small trailer park, and they had some efficiency apartments. And their efficiency apartments, like a 1-bedroom kind of open plan, were $500 or less.
Oh, yeah. No, so I know. I'm a GP on a 225 unit in Amarillo. This does not apply to a virtual assistant in the Philippines. It doesn't apply to a virtual assistant anywhere outside the United States. Okay, they are not U.S. citizens. They are not physically performing work inside the United States. They're not subject to U.S. laws. Okay, so what's really cool is that virtual assistants from the Philippines, you can get someone that has a college degree, qualified, and has multiple years experience. Okay, so we have people, we hired someone last year with a master's degree in English.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for this a similar price point. So would you need to deal with all this tax stuff? You don't. What you do is that real agent helper, we have an EIN number. You would count us as a business expense. We pay and take care of the employees and everything. Okay? The virtual assistant is not considered your employee. A virtual assistant is considered our employee. Okay, so we deal with all the regulatory requirements, everything else needed. You don't have to deal with any headaches. You just pay us, and we take care of everything else. No payroll, no Social Security, no state employment, no Medicaid. So how are staff's working conditions, and are they being compensated fairly? All right, so working conditions are pretty good, and I'll tell you why. Because many of our virtual assistants work from home. Okay, so they don't have to drive to the office, and they usually get paid better than even if they went to the office. We offer competitive wages. We very much, so to give you an example, I wouldn't say we've stolen from anybody else, but we've had people that have been looking, and we've paid them 20% more than their current job they were at. So why should I outsource? So when you think of outsourcing,
I love that picture. I'm sorry.
You like it?
That is super cute.
So this is like, instead of having this cool hair like this, it should have been long hair like angel hair. And this would be like some big not multinational even, just some big real estate investor. Okay. And they're using virtual assistants. Okay. All the big guys in every single industry are using virtual assistants. Why can't you? Okay. If you use any company, if you call Verizon, if you call T-Mobile, if you call Delta Airlines, if you call Google, they're all using virtual assistants, most of them from the Philippines, some from other parts of the country, some parts of the world. If you need a Spanish speaker, we often use people from Mexico or Dominican Republic. Problem with Dominican Republic is that the internet is not always as good. So that's one thing you have to think about. I mean, there's other parts of the world that we'd love to get virtual assistants from, but they have to have the right laws, and they have to have the right internet service.